Hey guys, what's up? My name is Karis. Welcome to Pilates. We're focusing on core and glutes today. P.S. It's always core, but it doesn't hurt to say it. Really abs, because we're going to be burning. You need a ball, which you almost always do. This is a cordless ball, but you could use any Pilates ball that you find on Amazon, and you'll need a circle, preferably one where you can fit your legs through. They come in different diameters, and if you don't have one where your legs can fit through, then you can use a loop band or a glute band. Let's get this show on the road. So, standing at the top of your mat, let's do your roll down, feet parallel, sit bone distance, stand up tall, think about lifting up through the arches of your feet, into the knees, into the pelvic floor, into your diaphragm, into your throat, and through the top of your head. Arms are by your sides, fingertips reaching towards the sides of your ankles. Take an inhale. Think about the air going down the back of your throat, down your spine, into your pelvic floor, so you feel this lift as this descends. Think about it for a second. And you'll just exhale from here. See how my shoulders didn't lift up, my arms didn't move on that inhale. And then exhale, nod your chin, and then roll down. See how my arms are staying directly under my shoulders. My eyes are looking at my thighs. Ooh. Inhale, and exhale, roll it up. I've been running more, so that's one reason why I'm going to focus on the glutes. See how I'm not collapsing against my thighs, but I'm in like a U shape, like I'm lowering myself over a picket fence, and I just go to the point where my lower back rounds, so if it starts to flatten out, I am fucking it up. Lift back up, inhale, and exhale. Runners and cyclists generally have weak glutes, just because their sport doesn't really involve their glutes, which is why it's really important to involve glutes in your cross training. P.S. We all have weak glutes for the most part. Down one last time. And then bend your knees and walk out into your plank position. You'll have your hands directly underneath your shoulders, elbow pits forward. I'm on the balls of my feet. My ankle bones are parallel to each other, and I'm tucking my pelvis in. Hopefully you saw, excuse me, how I did that. And then bring your left leg underneath at 90 degrees without shifting or moving your spine, and then bring that leg back. Other side. So not quite like a mountain climber, but we want that shin to graze the floor. Keep that tuck. Last set. Other side. A little over the knees, flatten the feet, and sit back into the heels. Excuse me. Let's get the show on the road. So, sitting up on your sits bones, I want you to actually feel your sits bones underneath you. Two little bony protrusions at the bottom of your pelvis. The ball goes in between your thighs. I prefer thighs to knees because people tend to just like push their knees together, which is counterproductive. Hold on to the backs of your thighs and stack your spine up tall over your sits bones. So not arching, but trying to get the shoulders directly over the pelvis. She's enjoying her bones, so excuse the background noise, but you're welcome for the background entertainment because she's the cutest. So same thing, we're gonna inhale down the throat. See again, my shoulders didn't move, and I'm holding on just a little bit to the backs of my legs. This time I'm gonna round my sits bones underneath me. So see how I didn't collapse my upper back, it moved a little bit, and then inhale, stack tall, and again exhale. So what I'm doing is trying to hollow out my lower abdomen, and then stack up tall. See, my upper back is really only moving as an afterthought. There's definitely no shrugging. And stack up tall, and we're gonna go a little bit further back. Start to feel those sits bones roll underneath you. You might need to adjust your feet. I usually do. Just going to like the top of my pelvis. Inhale and exhale. Tucking under and stack. Exhale. Rolling the pelvis underneath. Coming back. Let your hands slide if you want to go a little further. Switching up the breath pattern. Inhale, stack. Exhale, same thing. Starting by folding the pelvis in underneath itself and then rolling down, keeping those sits bones flat against the floor. Inhale at the bottom for a pause this time, and then exhale, roll up. And stack. Exhale. Rolling down, inhale. Exhale. Curling up. And stacking tall. If you want to release your arms to make it a little more challenging, you can. Fall allergies. You can stack your spine and bring your arms up too. It's kind of amazing how difficult that is, but that's one way to add on a little dimension and difficulty. So again, I'm trying to keep, excuse me, my sits bones flat on the floor. So if I take them with me, that's when my feet are gonna fly up. So I'm trying to keep my hamstrings especially engaged, and you can think about trying to drag your mat towards your butt a little bit, like you're trying to wrinkle the mat. But see how when I was here, I could stack up a lot better. Now it's way more work. And my hips feel really tight, which is consistent with running. Inhale at the bottom, exhale. You are constantly flexing your hip. And lift, hopefully. And this is why Pilates is so useful as cross training for that type of activity, and cycling as well. That's how I discovered Pilates at the age of 17. I was a beat to shit runner. Inhale and then exhale. Rounding up and stack. Tight. Okay, so soles of the feet come together. And I started with mat. I did mostly mat for at least probably about half my time of doing Pilates, which is over, like, I think it's 22 years now. How old am I? Almost 22 years. Okay, so go ahead and put the ball back in between your knees. If you feel like you're getting really fatigued here from squeezing the ball, you're getting really fatigued here from squeezing the ball. You really want to think about wrapping your thighs around the ball versus like trying to be knock-kneed, so to speak. Okay, so scoot yourself closer to your feet. About a hand's distance apart. My quads are always super tight. I don't get that close, but I feel my sits bones underneath me. So, rolling back. Oh, this fall allergy is kicking my ass. Okay, cool. So, level cup of coffee, tea, what have you, whatever floats your boat. God damn it. So we're in neutral spine here. That means that your lower back does lift off the mat slightly, right? When you flatten your back, that is not a neutral spine. A neutral spine is, it's how nature designed us in its ideal form to, for like the shearing forces of gravity and impact absorption and all that stuff. We're all on a spectrum. No one is like perfectly neutral, but it's still important to not only understand that, but to try to get to as close to ideal as possible that your body allows. That's a really, really big part of Pilates and a really, really big thing that I integrate into lifting, which, yeah, cool. So if you can scoot your heels back a little bit more, just so that your shins are completely vertical, that's fine. If you can get your heels onto your butt, that's too fucking far. So we're neutral spine. You should feel about bra strap level, bottom of your rib cage, down on the mat, and you should feel pretty much like the top of your butt, depending on your physiology. Pubic bone and hip bones are on the same horizontal plane, and this is exactly how we would want to be in the standing, in the roll down position, but it's easier to feel on the mat when you're out of that alignment. So same thing that we did in the seated position here. You'll inhale. You can use your hands on your pelvis or not. It always helps me, even after 22 years. So again, I'm trying to like just curl the lower back. I don't like to say that because I don't want you pushing it down, but I'm trying to think of like a zipper in my backside. Zipping, and I sink down. And so my upper back is not affected here, again, because I have gravity's in my favor and I have the feedback from the ground. And when I come back to neutral, I'm not flopping it forward or just like letting it go. I'm really trying to maintain this abdominal engagement that I've established through this tuck, maintain it, and then lengthen and try to maintain it. So this should be getting flatter and flatter, ideally. So what I'm doing is I'm actually inflating laterally into my rib cage and into my lowermost ribs on the mat. And back to neutral. And I can actually feel my lower back moving well. Good job, buddy. Oh, I had a massage yesterday by a chick who's donating a massage session. She's fucking incredible. You should come to the Halloween party just for that. All right, let me get my shit together. And back to neutral. If you don't move much, that's fine, especially if you're new to Pilates. Even if you're not, sometimes it's like, Jesus Christ, my spine feels like a steel rod. Now we're gonna go into the pelvic curl. And roll up, so we're zipping up through the back side of the body. I'm keeping my lowermost ribs down. Well, that's not true, I'm coming to the tips of the shoulder blades, but I'm not letting my ribs flare, and I'm curling my pelvis under on itself. So we wanna tuck here. If you're like this, you're in back extension. We want tuck, and you can also think about keeping the weight in your toes more than in your heels. So inhale at the top, see how my abdomen didn't press out? And then exhale, reverse the movement. The more that you can think about moving from the back side of your body versus pushing the front side of your body down, the better. Inhale at the bottom, not relaxing. Exhale, starting the same way. And then I'm peeling the spine off, turning the pelvis in on itself. Pubic bone is higher than the hip bones, knees are reaching over the toes. And exhale. Rolling down. Inhale and exhale. The better you get at the pelvic curl, the better result you'll get from every single thing in Pilates, because it is the most foundational movement. It's very similar to the roll down, and also the exercise that we did between the two. See, when I talk, my abdomen protrudes. It's because I can't focus on what I'm doing when I'm talking. Just requires focus, which is actually great for your fucking brain too. I'm shifting a lot because I feel like I haven't done this in a while. Okay, so go ahead and take the ball out. Separate your feet about mat width. Don't let your feet be wider than your knees. And then you'll control your pelvis and then legs. Ooh, something popped, that's good. Over to one side, opposite arm comes up by your ear. So my shoulder blades stay down. I'm thinking about pulling my abs in and reaching this knee down, so I'm getting this length through my hip flexor, primary hip flexor, psoas, which is connected to your mid-spine. So getting that length. And then use your core to transition and exhale, switch. Core to transition and exhale, switch. So if you let go of your legs in that first exercise down there on the mat after the plank, that's because psoas is tight, right? So if it's it's connected up here, when you let go, it's really hard to hold yourself up because motherfucker's tight. Just doing stuff like this is, I think, the best way to approach it. Obviously, since this is what we're doing, I don't like static stretching or passive stretching in most instances. Okay, cool. So go ahead and grab your circle. You're gonna lift your legs up into tabletop using your core, and the circle goes between your calves. So we're gonna do a progression of this exercise, 2 reps of each. If you're new to Pilates, don't be a fucking hero and try to go to the more complex ones yet. And if you're not new, just meet your body where it's at, because this gets shitty. So I'm pulling my abs down, arms are open to a T. This is very similar to the 90-90 movement that we just did. So I'm rotating my pelvis and come back to center. My palms are facing up, rotate. Make sure that your feet aren't coming in towards each other. So I'm not twisting or shortening one side of my waist. Literally side to side. You can think about tracing like your underwear line, if that's your thing, if you wear underwear, and just lightly squeezing the circle, trying not to get your like groin muscles upset with you. That was more than 2, my bad. Rotate, and then adding on, you'll extend your legs out on a diagonal and bend, and use obliques to come back to center. So I felt that a little in my upper lower back, which means I was going further than I should. Right here, there we go. It's not an accident when you feel stuff like that. It means that generally you're using that muscle. So you rotate, and it makes sense because this side I'm coming back from a episode with my neck. And again, you'll rotate. Just try to listen to your body. I'm trying to wrap the calves into the circle versus push my knees together. And you know what? Since we did those extra reps, I think that's a good stopping place for that. So go ahead and take the circle out. And let's grab the ball and place it at the bottom of the rib cage, somewhere like that. And we want to try to have the pelvis as neutral as possible. So that means with that level cup of coffee or whatever the fuck you drink. Isn't she a perfect angel? So good. So I want your feet all the way together here. And release your fingers behind the back of your head. So thumbs are at the base of the skull, not this kind of thing. And your elbows are visible in the corners of your eyes, in towards your temples. And then we're gonna inhale, reach back. That was the ball. And then exhale, use my abs to pull me forward. Inhale back. So again, I'm trying to keep this zipped up, not relaxed on the inhale. God, I'm crooked. Using those low abs. I inhale deep in this time and then exhale. So again, just making it a longer breath pattern. Inhale and exhale. So it starts in my abdominals and that's what lifts me up. Inhale, deepen. So I'm trying to keep this flat, so I'm not pushing myself up higher. I'm trying to deepen this, right? So like my sternum down into the ball, and then back on the exhale. Inhale, and exhale. Inhale, deepen. Think about dropping your butt a little bit when you do that. And then coming back. Inhale at the bottom, exhale, lift. Take sternum down into that ball and deepen, hold it there, deepen a little bit more, a little bit more. So see how I'm barely moving? That's because that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm just tightening the muscles that are already working. A little deeper, and pulse without bouncing for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. And then lower with control. It's not over till you get to the bottom. And then you can let your head touch the floor, extend your arms out above your head, legs out. It feels so nice. Excuse me. So, grab your circle again, and we're gonna place it up around the thighs. This can be really uncomfortable if you're on your IT bands and your IT bands are really tight. Just like if it's distracting, you can use the glute circle, glute band, whatever the fuck we call it now, glute band, I guess, and that will work fine. So here, we want the feet parallel. This time your feet are gonna be a little wider depending on your circle so that we can have the heels in line with the knees and the knees in line with the hips as much as possible. And we're thinking about, so if you have your feet like parallel to each other, press it into the mat and then think about corkscrewing your heels inside. So if you were going to move your feet would come together towards a V. Hopefully that made sense, and keep your butt down for now. All right, glute bridges. Inhale, exhale, and down. So the top position is the same as the pelvic curl. Instead of curling the spine, we're hinging the hips here. And that's how we'll get your glutes. So I can feel myself using my quads a little bit, so I'm gonna scoop my feet together. That means I'm pushing out with my quads too much. Everyone's different. You have to just figure out what works best for you. I can feel myself rolling to the pinky sides of my feet, so I'm trying to keep the balls of my feet down. And trying to keep that corkscrew. See, it comes up and squeezes, and down at the bottom, it's still back at neutral. So same top and bottom position as the pelvic curl. If you feel one glute more than the other, focus on the one that you don't feel as much. Last two, last one. Scoot your heels back towards you. And turn your toes out just a little bit, but still trying to do that corkscrew for 10. Feel it in my calves, that's why I just my feet. 2 and 1. Feet parallel. Still abducting from the hips, so trying to like widen your hips. And 10. 3, 2, and 1, and down all the way. Still very comfortable. Let's go with the feet out in front of you a little bit more, and we'll get 10 there. Stay up at the 10th. Feel crooked. Hold it there. Pulse out onto the circle for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Hold it open, push out for 10, 9, hold it static. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep pushing, and then little pulses, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and down. That's the good stuff. Go ahead and take your legs out. Hug your knees into your chest. Just rock from side to side. Beg your glutes for forgiveness. Okay, so then extend your legs out in front of you. Grab your circle again. This time it's going to stay between your hands. We're doing the roll up. If you struggle with this exercise, sometimes big boobs, just being tight in your back, whatever, holding on to like a 10-pound weight can be really, really helpful because it's counterweight. I know it's counterintuitive, right? So legs are long, and I'm pressing the backs of my legs into the mat. But if your knees hyperextend, you want to think more about pressing your heels down into the mat. And my hips are extended, so it'll be harder for me to compensate with my hip flexors, which is nice. And it'll be actually a lot harder to be in a neutral position by design. Okay, so the circle goes back. If you have the weight, just keep it over your chest though. So I felt my quads, so I'm like engaging them too much. I have to keep them soft while lengthening my knees down. I know it's weird, but you'll get used to it. So inhale, pause, and then you'll roll up into a C curve. So very similar to the exercise we did at the beginning, not reaching my shoulders forward. My spine is stacked even though it's curved. And then you'll arrive through that exhale. So excuse my feet are moving the mat. And then inhale. See, I'm going all the way to the tops of my quads. And if you're just using your hands, your pinkies will touch or hover right above your quads. So see how my shoulders stop right above my pelvis. And again, inhale. And exhale. So it's an inhale, pause at the top. And 2 more, I'm moving. Legs kicking up is normal as the hip flexes. Obviously we want to minimize that by using your hamstrings as much as possible. And then last one. And reach. And then you can put the circle around your feet and just get a little stretch. Woo. Okay, another exercise in the hinge family. This is a lot more hamstrings, it's a lot of Pilates, and lengthening your hip flexors, which is something we all need, but it's also a lot of tricep, posterior chain, in other words. So your fingers will be pointed in towards your glutes. Alternately, you can have your hands like this. If you roll up the mat, that can be really helpful. This is great for your wrists, so if you can't do it right now, try to work up to it. It's a toughie, so get long through those triceps. We're gonna inhale, prepare, and then press yourself towards the ceiling and try to get your toes to touch the mat, and then hinge back down. So I don't want you to like stretch your feet, which is something I can do, and how I cheated for a long time. I want you to try to lift your hips high enough so that your toes touch. So if you have bendy feet, see how I'm pushing myself back? And it's the story of my life. It's not because I'm running, it's because that's just how I am. But knowing that helps me catch the error when it's happening and not just cheat and pretend I'm doing a great job. Last one. Sorry, wait, I miscounted. We have to do one more. I have a plan. Last one. And then down all the way. Whew. The more mobile your hip flexors are, the better you can access your glutes, because your glutes are hip extenders, which is the opposite of hip flexors. So again, ways to work on mobility without passively stretching. So then, for after circle, we're gonna do rolling like a ball. So feet will go in the circle, and we wanna pull the heels up towards your butt as much as we can. And so try to keep the shoulders down, and see how I'm trying to round through my lower back. And inhale, exhale, pause. I'm not trying to throw myself back. I'm trying to use my abs the same way as that first exercise. Last two. Last one. Great. Okay, we're gonna do a rollover exercise, so kind of like an inversion plow, something like that. I'm gonna have the circle in between my calves. If you're just getting used to this exercise, I want you to continue with rolling like a ball, and just do about 8 reps. So you'll probably finish before the rollover sequence, but that's okay. So, rolling like a ball is the same thing as these, right? So if you're really tight in your posterior chain, it can make it very challenging, but physiology has a lot to do with it as well. So, legs up into tabletop, extend to 45 degrees, inhale 90, and then back. So I'm trying to keep my sits bones pointed towards the ceiling, and then I'll flex my feet, try to tap behind me evenly, and that's good. And then roll down. I've been crooked like all year, basically like a functional scoliosis, so that makes me happy. Point, using a lot of tricep, and then flex the feet. Tap behind if you can. If that puts too much strain on your neck, don't do that. But again, you can work up to it. Point, 45, and one last one. And flex, and tap, and point, and then back into tabletop. And then go ahead and roll onto your side for the side kick. So you'll have your legs straight underneath you, and you'll be basically in like a modified half plank position. This is level 1. Level 2 is on the tip of your elbow and tapping the back of your head. I'm trying to be in like as much of a alignment over your sternum as possible. So you can go like right here and make sure you keep those abs pulled in. And then the full version is with both hands back there. So I am this time just tapping the back of my head, not actually cradling it. No slouching. See how I can draw a line straight through my elbows, all that shit. Okay, so lift that top leg and flex the foot. And then we'll kick forward and point back. Hip flexion, hip extension, and point. A little bit of swaying is normal, but what we're trying to do is actually stabilize the pelvis and spine. 85% of the time it's what's not moving that's working in Pilates. And I would say lifting too. And then back, that's not really true. So hold that leg back and then extend your top arm and rotate, and then we'll circle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, switch directions, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you'll lay down on that arm. Your bottom leg is at 90 degrees. Arm is extended underneath you, head on the bicep, palm is up. So the shin is aligned with the front of the mat. The top of the thigh is aligned with the top of the mat. So we want like a perfect 90 degrees, right? You see, oh yeah, that's perfect. So again, I'm not slouching. I want to create a little space here called the house for the mouse without doing something like this, right? So see, if I do that, my hips are stacked and I keep that little bit of space there. So in other words, my core is working. So imagine that your foot is up against a wall with a towel, like you're pushing a towel into the wall. I want you to turn the towel inward. So we're internally rotating that leg, not your foot and all that shit, but we're trying to get the knee and everything pointed down and maintain that. You can also think about your heel going up, big toe going down. So I'm only going about hip height. To go higher than that is to use muscles we're really not interested in using, and up. So the one we are interested in using is your upper, called your glute med, and that's typically the one we will focus on a lot in Pilates. See, I'm so tight I can barely touch the floor. And that's okay, I'm running, so that's why I'm doing this shit, so I can undo or counteract. Feel a lot in my hip too, my hip's just compensating, so I have to relax my quad. And then you bring the leg forward, down, up, and back. And you're trying to keep this front leg as still as possible as well, so everything is very punctuated, forward, down, up, and back. I have to think about my leg being very light, so I'm not holding it up with my hip flexor, which is how I love to do it. And just like drawing a rectangle. So try to keep that, the outside of that knee, just gently pressing down into the mat. Whew. Oh, my hip flexors are fucking lit up. Last 2. Last 1. And then forward. And we pulse for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stack the legs. Oh my God. And clamshell, 10, 9, 8. So just externally rotating. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Ooh. So mad. Okay, so before we switch sides, we're gonna do a quick little ab sequence. We're gonna do the same one on the other side, just to make sure we're getting enough ab. Some back extension, you guys are done. Also, that butt cheek has to rest, because both sides are working, as you'll discover when we switch sides. Okay, so going into double leg stretch. The legs come up into tabletop. Make sure you're really pulling into your abs and not just like flopping the legs back. So knees all the way together. And then lift head, neck, and chest. So right hand on right knee, left hand on left knee. You're just bearing down on it slightly. And then you'll extend out and sweep in. So my chest, really my torso, stays in the exact same position. 5, 6, just going to 8, 7, and 8. Bring it in. Both hands go to the right knee, send that left leg long, and switch. Toes past each other. 2, 4, 4, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8. Oh, I said 8, right? My bad. And then hands behind the back of the head. Sorry, I'm distracted. And then rotate, turn towards that thigh, and switch, and switch, and switch, switch. And 3, and 2, and 1, and 1. Bring it back to center. And rest. Side to side. And then let's go ahead and switch sides. So going into the side kick first. All right, so again, just pick whatever level you did on the other side. Legs are long, toes are pointed on one elbow and the other. Lift through the waist. So the toes should be the same length. If you reach beyond that, you're using your back too much. So we want them just to be stacked. And hover that top leg up, flex the foot, kick, 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 and point, point. Sorry for the noise, and point, point. Kick, kick, and point, point. Ooh, too much. So what happens when you rush. And point, point, kick, kick, point, point, kick, kick, and point, point, and hold. Top arm and rotate. We'll circle the leg for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Switch directions. 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then you roll onto your abdomen. And we'll finish with double leg kick. One of my favorites. It's going to engage hamstrings, which is really important. A lot of hip extension too. So we'll start with one cheek on the mat. Interlace your fingers behind your back and try to get your upper arm down onto the floor. If you have to have your arms down here to do that, that's fine. Sorry for the noise. And then you're going to press it to Stella. Excuse me. So you're going to press your pubic bone down into the mat and then bend your knees so your heels come towards your butt. And then you're going to try to, do you mind? Excuse me. And then you're going to try, everyone's trying to fuck me right now. So then you're going to try to lift your knees up off the mat. And then kick 3, 2, 1, little tiny pulses. Thumbs to bum, lift the chest. Switch sides, get those arms down, lift the knees. So your body shouldn't be moving around when you do this. So 3, 2, 1, a lot of hamstring, and extend. And other side again, lift. Inhale. And last time. Inhale, reach, and lower down. Forearms. And sit onto the heels. Never mind. Okay, so we'll just keep this simple. Finish with another plank variation that involves hip extension, and that'll be it. So hands directly into your shoulders, think elbow pits forward, send those legs back. So you're back into that plank position. Make sure that your ankles are lined up. Tuck the pelvis. And then, I started a little too far forward. Cheater. And then you'll hover one leg up, tap, lift. So only going to the point where everything else stays still. And 2, and 1. Set that foot down. Other side, hover. Think about moving from your hip. Keep those abs tight. 3, 2, 1. Felt my knee bend. And lift. It's not the end of the world. Just trying to notice shit your body does, especially when you start doing new activities. It's gonna kick my ass. So walk back and roll up. And finish with your roll down. Same way we started. Arms by your sides, fingers reaching towards the sides of your heels. Stack it up tall. And exhale. Oh yeah. So I'm still only going to the point where my spine rounds and doesn't flatten out, right? So not like that. One more time. This. Immediate change in range of motion, and all I did was a bunch of ab and glute stuff. Cool. Enjoy. My name is Chris.